Thank you, sir, ma'am, for your kind presence on this stage.
Thank you, Amit. Just before I answer that one, we were just discussing, Shalu and myself, that most of what we thought we should talk about has already been spoken by Augie. So you haven't really left much for us. So I think just taking a cue from what Amit said is that we'll try and give it a very real life kind of a flavor here and stay away from the jargons, etc. coming in, because I think it's universal. So it's not just about, are they expecting hybrid? Are they expecting work from anywhere? Are they expecting flexi shifts? I think what is also happening is that they're expecting personalization, they're expecting feedback. And I'll tell you, this is something that I didn't think of speaking about till yesterday. So yesterday I was here for a while. I spoke to this group of people who are running startups. And in the same group, there was this one CEO of an organization in Amritsar, which employs about 5,000 people. And he comes out and says, hey, listen, Vikas, I'm facing this big problem of new guard versus old guard. Where, there are these people who are coming in, which is the Gen Z and all of them. And then there's this old folks who are staying. And on top of that, I bring in this whole hybrid kind of a setup. And now this old guard expects, people to be switching on their videos, staying available on beck and call. Whereas there's a lot of resistance there. And then the people say, hey, listen, why do you want to see my face? I'm here, I'm talking. Why do you want me to switch on the video? And that's where the whole Zoom fatigue and all of that kind of comes in. I think there are a lot of these real life challenges which are emerging. So that's one. The second is that, I think the guys are expecting a lot of rewards to say that if I have delivered something, where is the return on that? It's a good thing to say that, hey, listen, yeah, I want to be there, loyalty, etc. But then at the end of the day, if you're not being able to create a reward structure to be able to, take this further to sustenance, then it's not going to fly. Tech, okay, that's something which is a favorite subject of mine. And I say that, all of us HR folks, and I think everyone here would agree, we need to start thinking more Instagram, and less of the other stuff. Because if you're not able to give those real-time insights, small nudges, not long yarn, I think we will kind of be lost. And last is, I think, in my view, what has changed is that for all of us, and we've spoken about this, the standard HR playbook doesn't apply anymore. And that's something that we need to throw away. We need to really look at more personalized experiences, more transparent, more flexibility, beyond remuneration. So a lot of such elements kind of exist. So that's, I think, a quick
reflect and think about. But Vikas, we're not doing this like an Apple playlist, right? Which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We will do a little bit of mix and match. But I do know Vikas has a passionate point of view around this whole subject of, particularly the whole process of, tech and how do we engage people in that. So, Vikas.
Right, thanks. No, just before I get there, I really wanted to add on to what Amit said, and I think that's so true. So I've been into industries where manufacturing has been at the force, so the current company that I work with, 70% of our workforce is like all manufacturing. Now, just to add on, I think if you read up, there is a practice by Unilever, okay, it's called You Work. Now what they have done is they've actually employed these listening tools, okay, not the asking tools, the listening tools, to figure out that in manufacturing units, or in my case, R&D, how do people really want to be treated, and what are the real life challenges? One of them Amit mentioned. So what they have done is that they have now tried to roll out a program across India, Philippines, Malaysia, and a few other countries, where they're talking about You Work, which is to say that even in manufacturing, can I enable a work from anywhere kind of a scenario for you? Not for all the days, but let's say 1 day a week. Or for that matter, if you think about, the flexi shifts, or for that matter, if you think about, 4 days a week, can these be applied there? Okay, and they're doing a POC right now, which seems to be successful. One add-on to this whole POC is that, it's also to say that can gig be deployed? So, if you can break tasks down in a manufacturing unit, to multiple subsets, and then I say that, hey, listen, here's Vikas, who possibly is a supervisor, but he can contribute to this one particular task on a certain day, and he would like to do that and also get some extra money for that. So is that something that can be done? So that's another. And then they're also looking at contract workers who get FTE benefits, which is, security and the others. So there is a lot of work that is happening. So I don't think that entire world of, the blue collar, or let's say the others, they are being ignored. But how do we really ask them? And that's where the tech really comes in, and I think it comes in really handy. Uh, HBR, I was reading this one paper where there was this CEO 10 years back, and he used to send one email to certain departments with the 3 smileys, good, bad, ugly. People would respond. Now, wherever the responses are down, this guy would go and sit on that floor and figure out what the challenge is. From there, I think we've moved on to the world of sentiment analysis. Now, sentiment analysis is something that we all, kind of know, and we've been doing it. It kind of, just uses the conversations that are happening in the organization on tech, on platforms like performance management tool, for example, or enterprise social network like Facebook at Work, for example. And then it says that, hey, listen, these conversations are probably reflecting a negative sentiment somewhere. So can we do something about it? Now, the big question is that at a plant, you may not even have, those guys may not even have access to, the laptops or the performance management tools, etc. But then there are certain areas. You could put up kiosks there where, again, the same 3 smiley philosophy could be deployed. So there are ways to hack it. But yes, I mean, tech solves for a lot of listening. The idea is not to go and ask questions, as Sajjad said. It's how can you listen, because then you are basically taking the biases away, and that's where I thought I just wanted to make a point.
Was the first part of the question. The second was that there is a school of thought that says that enabling something by tech actually takes away the personal touch or the whole personalization. So it takes out the human out of the human resource in some ways. So I can see Vikas passionately having a point of view, and that was the purpose of the conversation, right? If we agree on everything, too much of agreement kills the chat. So maybe Sajjad, Shalu, and then of course Vikas.
I have a view on the second part first.
Okay, yes,
I really think that we only symbolize technology as something because it's not human, so it cannot have emotion. Okay? And that is where my disagreement lies with the fact that just because you use tech, it will lack emotion. I think at the end of the day, even the code behind whatever interaction you are trying to create is a human being, right? Now let me give an example. This is my experience. People want to know what people are thinking. One way to know that is to run a survey, ask them pointed leading questions, answer yes or no. The other way is to ask open-ended question and let the response come, and as Vikas was saying, do the sentiment analysis and understand what is the emerging pattern, right? Is all possible. So Amit, from that standpoint, I would say there is enough and much technology that can assist us as HR professionals to have the real, how should I say, the mood. We call it the mood score. Every manager gets a mood score. To say every roll-up in our organization now gets a mood score. To say, okay, Shalu, your team's mood score is 3.9, whereas the benchmark of your peers is 4 in the same period. And allow the tech to talk to your people and just extract that information and get you the sentiment view. And then do what you want to do. But I also want to add to Vikas and all of us when we are talking about listening is no good if there is no response.
And today, yeah, so I think really, really great thought. So I think you've got a lot of support on this panel, Vikas, from a tech standpoint in terms of where it's...
I couldn't agree with you more because, Sajjad has kind of laid it out. Shalu has laid it out. Just 2 things. Today, music is also made without even interacting once, right? The tracks are recorded on different, levels. And Shalu, I have a team structure where I've got a plot for AI, because the AI bot is only as good as you train it. So these bots don't just overnight start delivering magic, and it is about a 6 months to a year kind of a journey before the bots become intelligent. But then I would not for a minute discount the fact that it's collaborative intelligence. It's 70% whatever tech, this, that, blah, blah, blah. But there's a huge human interface which is involved. And in the absence of that, no tech can really roll out. The worst thing you want is that you ask a question to a bot and it gives you the answer for something else. You ask them leave balances, it gives you, okay, you know what, you have a salary of XYZ. You don't want that experience, right? So I think all of us, whether it's HR, whether it's employees, whether it's students, we are all looking for consumer-grade applications, consumer-grade experiences. At the end of the day, tech is an enabler, but tech also does change behaviors. And the classic example of this is Grammarly. Right? So if you look at Grammarly, your text, it actually populates, right, where the mistakes are happening. by the way, this next tech is not available. Imagine 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line. What if there was some tech available which would say, hey, listen, the conversation that you're having, you need to correct it. Possibly, some changes need to be made. A pop-up button comes somewhere. I don't know, it's just all fancy and all that. But none of this is a valid use case, just like metaverse is still a great, buzzword. But I was discussing with my co-panelists here that there are companies here in India which is kind of investing heavily on metaverse right now because they do see a use case. There are companies, even in HR, there is a use case for blockchain. So all of this is leading to a certain kind of a tech landscape which is being built. But why is it being built? Why is metaverse being thought of? It is not to make money. It is actually to render a great experience, a great convenience, a lot of flexibility. So that's a quick summary of,
Yeah, so
How
yeah.
I should lead.
Yeah, so talking of experiences, and I'll just kind of, you've given me a segue into mine because this is very recent. So I've joined this organization just about 6 months back, and I'm an early bird. I reach the office at 7, but consistently something happens to me every day. And I call that out in our internal group, just a week back. There's this one housekeeping lady, all right? She's there in the morning to do the cleaning and all of that. But the way she would just greet you, right? The smile and a long, good morning, sir, that kind of just makes my day. And I'm now used to it. So even if I reach before her, then I move out of my office and I just want to look for her where she is because I want that good morning greeting. It just gives you a great vibe, right? So no one is saying that you need to take the empathy, the emotion, the human collaborative intelligence that I keep talking about. Those are important aspects. Tech doesn't take that away. But then when you go down deep and you understand your HR practice, somebody's done a good job of training her, right? To tell her that, listen, this is something that you should do. And she does it with a genuine intent. And I keep saying, that authenticity eats perfection for breakfast every day. So she's authentic, and that's what appeals to me. All right? So yeah, this is something that I just took the liberty of adding on, that, emotions do matter despite whatever tech, whatever digital journeys you are on.
Wow, so four such wonderful stories, right? Really, in that sense, coming from the heart. So, as we're getting towards the end of this, let me just...
No, wait, where's yours?
Yeah. So that is inclusion for you, right?
Thanks. But hey, Augie, if remember in the morning there was this whole point which was made on, investments on cyber security and data. And since Shalu spoke about ROI, I think a good use case for the country to possibly invest on from a legislation point of view is more on the security of data, right? And I think that's where a lot of work is also happening. If you read the cert.in laws, they're kind of creating a GDPR equivalent in India as well. So that's good news because that's something which is the need of the hour, especially in an environment where everybody's, the data is all over the place.
Beyond a point.
Yeah, and then there's the other side of candidate ghosting as well, where the HR or the recruiter doesn't seem to, kind of get back, close the loop, and just ghost the candidate, right? So it's both, and this has got nothing to do with pandemic, by the way. This is a phenomena that we've been seeing for a while. But I think, just to add on, candidate ghosting is a phenomena which will possibly stay, because if you really understand what's really happening, there are 2-3 offers that a candidate has, the candidate is exploring, evaluating, and then chooses to pick one up. Now, it's exactly like you download some 3 apps, when you had to buy something. You sign on all of those, but you actually make a decision to buy on one, but not the other 2. So why would you do that? Possibly the convenience, the whole proposition, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's how all of us are also looking at this. There's a lot of work that we need to do to ensure that our EVP is as robust, as solid, to ensure that the other guy kind of chooses us. But yes, there is an integrity element somewhere here, which Shalu alluded to, because I think it's a good practice to just say no, rather than not saying anything at all. But yeah, you guys are all warming up to it and seeing how this needs to be tackled better. That's a fairly a good question, because I think this is something that all of us are right now working on, whether it's encouraging the study leave programs, or it's ensuring fungibility, as Amit spoke about earlier as well, to ensure that people get to see opportunities outside of their domains, provided there's a skill fitment. And there's a whole lot of investment that as HR practitioners, all of us are making on the fact that, how can we develop a person, not just within the role, but also outside of the role. And that's where the whole internal mobility kind of an angle comes in. And this is a very common phenomenon. Again, I'm not sure if it is really to do with COVID and the pandemic that we had. This is something that has been there for a while. With pandemic, I think there was a gap in between where people thought, okay, I have time. Okay, so what we are trying to address is that give people that time to go and upskill, and when I say upskill, it could be, a professional qualification or, a certification or whatever. But then those are things that we have in our policies, and we are developing that quite well. All organizations across India, whoever you talk to, that's one of the key, out there kind of things that people are working on.
Any strategy?
Okay, great. Hey, thanks for that question. That's a good one. Something that we did, and I'm sure the other colleagues of mine have as well, is gamifying the whole performance within a manufacturing board. It's a very simple one, done and dusted, but still has a lot of value. So you put up these leaderboards, right? And you say, hey, listen, so-and-so supervisor and team are at X percentage output, and a comparison between the others. Now, the reason we did that, now this was the end product, but the reason we did that was that a lot of our folks were giving us a feedback saying that, hey, listen, where do we contribute and what our contribution really leads to in the whole value chain is something that we don't even get to see. You don't bother telling that about us because we're one of those worker bee class, who's just coming in, following SOPs day in and day out, delivering and moving out. But where do we really make an impact? So that whole stream was then put up on a screen for them to see. And of course, initially we had to do some trainings, helping them understand how do you interpret these scores, blah, blah, blah. But, we've got better at that. So that's something that I think a lot of organizations have also done it. I mean, we also did it learning from somewhere else. But this is something that has worked well for us to ensure that the gamifying of, productivity, etc. happens. And that's an action out of the listening in the manufacturing setup. Hope that answers your question.
Everything possible here.